I'm a bit more nervous.
So it's full disclosure. We've known each other for about more than 10 years or 9 years. Yeah. So first question, Chairperson, if appointed as the Ombudsman, what can the stakeholders expect from you?
A bit more transparency in how we do things. Because when we did the citizen participatory audit in COA, I'll give you an example. One of the things we did was, for example, when they audited farm-to-market roads. And when I talk about audit in this sense, it's a performance audit where you evaluate the effectiveness, efficiency, and economy of a project, not on the amount of funds or auditing expenditures. No, it's on the performance, because obviously it's hard to get citizens, if they're not accountants, to participate in that. But here, if you're just going to measure a road, you don't need, it's not rocket science. They have the tape measuring materials that they use. I think they call it the walking meter. And so what we did, for example, in Palawan is we looked at several farm-to-market roads, and we had the farmers themselves, who are supposed to be the beneficiaries of the roads, work with us in the audit of the the length, the width, and in some case, minsan kasi hindi naman siya semento, it's a dirt road. But kung sementado yan, minsan yung thickness tinitingnan. And they also had this test that the engineers taught them, that you get a rock and you smash it on the concrete. The rock should smash, not the concrete. If the concrete smashes, then you know there's something wrong with it. Things that you learn along the way. No? So I think it was very effective because the ordinary people saw it in action, and so that they could actually make some kind of a difference in a very small way. I have to flesh out how this will work in terms of the ombudsman. The very easiest portion would be yung parang sumbong mo sa Pangulo, which is already existing anyway. But there might be other ways that they can help. For example, here now we're talking about a lot of engineering issues with flood control and the like. So maybe tapping some private sector engineers to help in that process, rather than relying on just the engineers that are working in the office, who may not have the experience or the wherewithal to actually look at this in a meaningful way.
Second question, Chairperson. Despite all accomplishments in your life, why do you still want to become an ombudsman?
I was right to be worried about it. Okay, I think given what I've seen, working in different offices in government and the private sector as well, I think it's an area where I think I can be able to contribute in a meaningful way. And it's two ways, no? It's not just going after corrupt officials. It's also alleviating those who are innocent, because sometimes zealousness gets the better part, and people who shouldn't be included are included. And if ever you've had a case, whether it be in the ombudsman or Sandigan Bayan, or even just the regular court, you have a criminal case, that weighs heavily. That affects you mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and the like, even financially to some extent. So you also want to look out for the people who are innocent, who shouldn't be included. That was one of the issues I had in COA, because minsan shotgun approach, lahat kasama sa disallowance. And I said, tika, pumirma ba tong tao to? Ba't sinama nyo? Ay siya kasi yung treasurer eh. So you had to, work on that. And so that's one of the things there. Of course, there are people who also prodded me to apply for it. And but as I've always been, if I'm not desperate for the job. If I get the job, good. If I don't, I still have a job actually.
Third question, Chair. I noticed you have been, the first time you worked in the government was way back in 2011.
11.
Yeah. So you were appointed there by the President, Pinoy Aquino. Okay. So now, you have been appointed also in the COA by President Digong Duterte.
No, that was also President Aquino.
Okay.
That was 2015.
In PCC, you were appointed by
President Marcos.
Marcos. So you were appointed by the presidents in those two posts. So question is, how apolitical are you?
Pretty much. I've never been involved in any campaign for any political party. Meaning anyone running for president. Of course, you vote for someone, but I've never been involved in the campaign. And so, while I've learned to follow politics to some extent, I'm really I consider myself more of a technocrat.
So, you've been asked earlier about independence. How about integrity? Is there an instance where your integrity was put to test, and how did you navigate that?
Well, if you've done litigation, that is not uncommon. I remember as a young lawyer, I think maybe I was less than a year out of after passing the bar. I was handling a case, a criminal case in Manila. It was before investigating prosecutor, preliminary investigation.
Excuse me, you were in the Borja Medaldea
Yes.
at that time. Yes.
Okay, and I think the case was submitted for decision, and I get a call, from the investigating prosecutor, called the office, and he was saying that he's very busy, and he was asking if I could draft the decision for him. And being new, you're like shocked, of course, but then you're not really sure what to do. And so I brought it up to one of the partners, and he said he'll take care of it. Meaning, I don't know what he did eventually, but he said he'll just take care of it. But it's really something very challenging, and I think anyone who's been in litigation has experienced something similar to that. It's just probably difficult to talk about, but I'm sure that's been there. At the end of the day, integrity is a personal choice. If you lose your integrity, you tend to lose it forever. And so, sayang yung pangalan mo kung sisiraan mo ng ganon. And that was one lesson taught to me by the senior partner in the next law firm I was with. Just make that one mistake and it will taint you forever. And so I think at the end of the day, it's your conscience that you have to look into.
Chair, if ever appointed in the office of the Ombudsman, do you foresee any significant changes or change in your lifestyle or life?
Well, they said you have a lot of bodyguards.
Yeah.
And I'm not used
And how
to
do
that.
you want or desire to cope with that situation?
I don't know if I have a choice, because I think they have their own security people there as well, and they're assigned to you. So I don't really know. It's not something I've thought about. I like the fact that, I drive myself on Sundays without any security whatsoever. But, in this post, well, that's something that my wife and I have discussed and said, well, if it happens, you have to deal with it. So I guess we'll really know when, if and when the time happens.
You'll try to adjust to that new lifestyle.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
No choice, yeah.
So how much do you value, Chair, public perception?
Oh, it's very important, but it shouldn't be controlling. At the end of the day, that's where integrity comes in, and that's where moral courage comes in. It's very important because, perception is a lot. You can be dishonest, but the perception might be you're a decent fellow. So it works. It can work the other way. You might be honest, but then the perception created is you're indecent. So I think it's not the most important thing, but it is very important. And so as much as possible, you want to maintain that perception. And for an organization like the Ombudsman, I think it's important. There are, of course, other ways to deal with it. I mean, media or social media is one way of dealing with it also. But it's very challenging because, as you know, minsan unahan yan eh. Pag naunahan ka, ang hirap. It's hard, if you're already being pilloried, it's very hard to recover from that. So it's very important, but I think at the end of the day, it's not the most important thing for a decision maker.
How about public criticisms? So how would you handle them? You're aware that as an ombudsman, you would get a lot of criticisms from the public.
It comes with the territory. So it's something you have to accept. I mean, when I was in COA, there were instances that we had that as well, even when I was in the OP. So it comes with the territory. It's something like maybe the bodyguards you have to live with. You have no choice. What I like to do, though, is always look at, is there any merit or basis to it? Now, I mean, if you're criticized and they just, they curse you, then that's meaningless because I don't get anything out of that. But if you're criticized, but then you look at it and say, okay, there is a point, or maybe there is a point somewhere there, then you try and look, is this something that you should look carefully about? For example, during as you well know, during the past administration, President Duterte, loved to hit COA every so often. Not naman madalas. I'd probably count maybe not more than 10 times. Probably 5 lang nga eh. But then, whenever he said that, I'd always look at, first of all, sino bang kausap niya? Who's his audience? One time, he was talking to League of Municipal Mayors. So you know the value of saying something negative about COA to them. Matutuwa talaga yung mga no. But there are some instances that he would take a more serious tone in concern about issues, and I would take stock of that. And there's even one time he said, siguro dapat umupo tayo, COA, Ombudsman, pag-usapan natin to. And in fact, we did, but not with the President, with Executive Secretary Bingbong Medjaldea. And we did sit down one time and discuss, some of the issues. Because again, that's important eh. Hindi pwedeng kanya-kanya lang eh. Yes, you're independent, but you are also interdependent. You don't exist in a vacuum. So you have to work, and communication is very important there. It's very difficult, but I think it's necessary.
So let us assume, Chair, you are already the ombudsman, and it's already 2029, and by 2029 there's already a new president. Mm-hmm. So if you are to rank these 5 things, 1 being the most significant to you, and 5 being the least significant, So number 1 would be the president who appointed you in the office. Number 2, the current president, which is earlier I said it's 2029. Number 3, the public, which includes also the public perception. Number 4, the safety of your family. And number 5, your personal goal. Your personal goal. Yung sabi mo kanina na you can give something to the public.
Okay. Oh, it's very difficult. I mean, obviously, first thing you'd probably say is safety of your family. I mean, it's a very difficult decision to make. In terms of president or current president, I think it's probably on the same level, maybe one a little higher than the other. Public's important, but I think everyone would agree that the safety of your family is more important than public. But I think the more important thing, not the personal goal, but your conscience. Mm-hmm. Are you doing the right thing? I think that should be foremost. Now, there could be consequences. You get in foul of the current president, you get in foul of the public. It could compromise safety as well. But then, if it's the right thing to do, sometimes you have to do it. This is not to say that you have to be self-righteous. It just means that there may come a point in time that you have to make that tough decision. Yeah. And so it's a question of looking at yourself in the mirror, and living with what you've done. If the public's against you, but then you at least honestly believe you did the right thing, then you can only go by that. If it means that, you get impeached or what, then, it comes with the territory. Part of it is accountability, and accountability can happen rightly or wrongly. I mean, fairly or unfairly. It's the way life is. So, at the end of the day, it's you.
So, do you have the guts to file criminal and administrative cases against those public officials who help you get the ombudsman post?
Oh. As much as you would not want to, if the evidence is there and it's clear right before you, it's very hard to hide behind that. Now, as lawyers, of course, there's a lot of legal gymnastics that can happen, but there's some things that might be clear as daylight. Like, for example, that governor I was telling you about na, nag-overdraw sa wala ka talagang lusot dyan because it's simple mathematics. Now, if the evidence is really strong, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And that's one of the difficulties also because, you have this public perception, whenever a case is filed, and then kung ma-dismiss, ang iniisip ka agad, may nabayaran dyan, or, which is sad, Sometimes maybe it happens, but I think a lot of times hindi naman ganon. But if it's high profile and then na-dismiss, yun ang unang sinasabi. But no one really goes into, ano ba talaga yung ebidensya? Ano ba talaga yung pinakita? It's only the conclusion that comes out. And so I think at the end of the day, it's the evidence there. That's the bottom line. Even sa COA nun, kung walang ebidensya, wala tayong magagawa.
Last question, Chair. So, what significant development do you think in your life would make you decide to quit, assuming you're the ombudsman, to quit the post?
Probably health. I think if you become physically or mentally unable to continue, and I hope if it does happen, I realize it. I've been fortunate to see long-time law professors, actually ex-Supreme Court justices who, really good for them. They noticed that they were losing already their, memory. And they recognized it, and they themselves, offered to say, I cannot continue, search for a replacement for me. So there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not clinging to a post. That's something I've never done.
Thank you, Chair. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Firme. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Senator Alan Peter S. Cayetano.